but it wasn't even that bad.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird, but
It's pretty weird. I hope this isn't too uncomfortable.
nah,
Nice and close.
yeah, man.
All right. Hey, so welcome everyone. Today it's pretty cool. We got Sam on with us. How do you say your last name? Mercury.
Mercury.
Yep.
That's it.
Got it. Okay. So we'll give you a bit of context about it as well. But I actually have known Sam for a bit. Went to high school with him. Which is kind of tripped out how these things happen. But yeah, like also I'm wearing a beanie. It's the middle of summer, but it's pissing down with rain and it's kind of cold. So that's why I'm not weird. All right. But yeah, so look, let's jump into it, man.
Yeah, man.
Tell us, what's your story? Why are you here talking to me?
I guess basically it's for, used to be like addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
Specifically ice was probably the worst.
Yeah.
All started, I think, when I was like, 18, 19, going out partying. You kind of experiment with little bits and pieces, and you might go out with like $80. You're like, taxi there, taxi home, a couple of drinks. Might not be able to afford a drink, so then a mate goes, "Oh, do you want to try a pill?" Yeah, okay, give it a try, and then it kind of just all goes downhill from there, I guess. Yeah.
No, it's interesting as well because, so I was kind of thinking about it on the way here because Sam sort of reached out to me after seeing other people's interviews and stuff, which is what a lot of people have been doing, which is cool. But yeah, as I said, I went to school with Sam. Sam's like a couple of years older than me, I think.
Yeah.
So you're always kind of in different year level in high school. Yeah. And I think I remember like bumping into you a couple of times at like parties and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's funny that we're kind of living crazy lives, but like had no idea that each other were kind of doing the same shit.
It's bizarre.
Yeah,
it's kind of it's a little bit scary to think about nowadays how common it is.
That's right.
But no one really. It's unfortunate no one talks about it enough.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's good you hear. Just quickly, it's an interesting thing that you say because I'd say the same thing. I spoke to this lady the other day though, who's like a professor. Something, I don't know, she's got a big brain. But she kind of goes around and talks about how ice isn't like an epidemic. And it actually, it isn't as widespread as we think. But then I would say from kind of my interactions with people that, and thinking back to it as well, that there was heaps of people that never even like kind of came forward about it that had these like kind of issues going on. How would you kind of explain that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, like way back when I was involved in it, it was exactly like you say, everyone kind of does it, but it was almost like you knew that everyone was doing it, but no one spoke about it.
Yeah.
And if someone had an issue, outside of their social life, they wouldn't blame it on their, ice, their use.
Yeah.
But then when you kind of look back now, you're like, well, maybe that was the reason why.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, no one really talks about it, so we never really knew. It was kind of like an underlying thing that everyone did it. It was just for a bit of fun, but we didn't really, I guess, at the time, understand how much of an effect it was having on our lives.
Yeah.
Until you step out of it and look back, you go, what the fuck was I doing?
Well, that's right. That's the interesting thing. I'll ask you a bit about your story in a second, but people always say to me all the time that they think that I've kind of had an interesting life already.
Yeah.
And I just kind of don't think so because I lived it, I guess, and you're probably the same.
Yeah,
but you don't realise how crazy it is until you get out of it.
Yeah, man, it's bizarre. Like, looking back now, I kind of think to myself, like, I was one of those people that, was talked about in the news or whatever, and frowned upon society. And you don't realise, until you step out and go, fire, that was me. I was doing that. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy to think about. I've got to ask as well, how do you go with like swearing?
No, go for it. Yeah, that's the So the whole thing about this is like what I say to people is just like pretend that the camera's not there. You just like talking to them, and that's the idea of it. And kind of part of the reason why I started doing it is because when I did like media stuff, they'd kind of ask me a couple of questions, but then they'd just be like, so what happened with this? And they just want me to like tell them like the most fucked up shit. And then I'd watch the news and then that's all they'd have on. And I'm like, that's not even what we talked about. So typical. Okay, so tell us, so you mentioned before that you got kind of stuck on drugs and predominantly ice. Like, so walk us through that. Tell us your story.
Yeah, so as I said before, like it started real young and I was just kind of playing around with pills and stuff when I went out. And then...
So like ecstasy?
Yeah, ecstasy. And then...
And at what age would you say that was the first time you tried that out?
I think I was about 19 maybe, 18 or 19 the first time I tried it. And as it does, it blows your head off. You're like, this was only $25. Like, how good?
That's right.
And yeah, you kind of don't really understand that it's turning into this thing that's just going to like grab you by the balls later on in life once you sort of go down that path. But so did that, was just going out and partying, and then didn't really care much about work or anything like that, and got into this, I guess, downward spiral, which was like, if I'm taking drugs, why don't I start selling them so then that can pay for my own habit?
Yep.
Typical,
right? Common thought.
Yeah. At the time, you're like, I'm a genius, why does no one else do this? Yeah. But then you find out that everyone that does do it usually ends up dead or jail.
Yeah.
And then, so I started doing that, and then I was like, I'm making enough money from this, I don't need to work.
Yeah.
So I quit my job, and all I was doing was just, selling drugs, going out on the weekend, taking them, kind of spending whatever money that I made, and it was just like, I was like, I'm living the life.
Yeah.
You know?
So a couple of questions there, and it's something interesting, because I guess when people look at like people that are addicted to drugs or drug addicts, they're always like, why are they doing this in their life? And I think you touched on something that's really interesting, and it's something I talk to people about a lot. But so that first time that you took ecstasy, you said it blew your head off.
Yeah.
So why did you do it again?
Oh, because, I mean, at the end of the day, we're emotional beings, right? So we're like, if something makes us feel good, we just want to go back there and chase it all the time.
That's right.
And you're just constantly trying to find that, you're trying to recreate that first time that you had it.
Yeah.
It never happens, and you learn that later on in life. But, it's just like, fire, this is amazing. You feel like you're floating, and then that's all you want.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I want to like tell everyone, is that we're not condoning drug use or whatever, but like the reason why people take drugs again is because it's awesome.
Yeah, exactly right. It makes you feel invincible, and it's like this, you kind of create your own reality when you're on it. And you're like, nothing matters, you're just having the time of your life, you're with who you think are your best mates, and out in a place, loud music, everyone's happy, and then, once you start to come back down, you go back to reality, it's like, fuck this, like, why am I going to work and getting yelled at by my boss and my parents? Like, I just want to go back to that fantasy land.
Yeah.
But it is awesome.
So what were before you took it the first time, what were the feelings around, like, how did you feel about it? Were you just pretty cool, you were just willing to put it down? Were you scared, nervous?
Yeah, I was a bit nervous. Like, it's interesting, when I was going through high school, I was always against it. Like, not so much that I was against it, but I didn't really understand it enough to have my own opinion of it. So I just kind of like, whatever, people want to do drugs, I don't really care.
Interesting.
I had some friends that did it, and they always offered me, and I was like, nah, it's okay, I don't know. But then I kind of got to a stage, and I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll try it once.
Yeah.
And then I remember my mate gave me a pill. I think the first time I was at like Cuba, I think, before it closed. And
the bar up on the corner of Toorak Road and Chapel Street?
Toorak and Chapel, I used to go there every weekend. It was sick. And he gave it to me, and he goes, I'll give it a try. He's like, careful though, they're really strong, so maybe just take half. And I was like, fuck off. I'll do whatever I want. And then I walked off, and I was just looking at it for like 10 minutes, just staring at this thing. And I was like, getting those nervous feelings. It's like, am I going to be one of those stories that the guy takes one pill and then he ends up in hospital and his life's changed forever?
Interesting.
And then I was sitting next to a mate. We were like, we just sitting in a corner somewhere. He's like, have you taken it yet? I was like, nah. He goes, just do it, you'll be fine. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And he goes, no, you'll be right. And I was like, yeah, fuck it, you're right. So then I just took it, and then I had a great time.
Yeah.
But after that, I just remember like the next 10 minutes, it was kind of like a euphoria feeling, almost like waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
You get all like nervous, and your heart's beating, and you're like, is it happening? But no, then you know.
That's right.
When it's like someone hits you in the face with a shovel, bang, you got all this energy.
Yeah, because when you take the ecstasy, it takes like 20 to 30 minutes or something to kick in or drop or whatever they call it. Yeah, exactly right. And it's just an intense feeling. You literally just feel like you get 30% more energy than you've ever had in your life, and grow into this beast. Yeah. So from there, that was kind of, sounds like, you had that, if you look, for a lack of a better word, positive euphoric experience the first time you took it, and you kind of almost, if you could say, it sounds like, fell in love or, thought it was great.
Yeah.
And then that progressed just slowly through drug taking and going out every weekend and moving on to selling drugs. So is that what you were selling as well, like ecstasy or?
Yeah, ecstasy and speed as well. Like I got into that just because I kind of liked, I guess the difference between like a speed or like an ecstasy tablet is with speed, it just gives you a lot of energy, but you're still really alert.
Yeah.
So I almost felt like I was still in control.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't, but I felt like I was. So then I started to, sell that as well. And it was just kind of like, almost like whatever I could get my hands on, I would, if my friends wanted it, like, I know a guy.
Yeah.
It kind of ended up just doing whatever my friends needed, I would kind of get for them.
Interesting. So, and would you say that kind of experience of like starting to sell them and going out all the time was almost like the step into kind of, the darker side of that scene and moving into like a more, dark side of your life and things going bad? Was that kind of the first step into that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting now, like when you look back, you realise how it all escalates. Like one thing leads to another, and it kind of, in your mind, you're like, this is getting better because it's easy to get. Or the guy who you used to get it off, you don't get it off anymore because you went to the person above him and now you're the big dog.
Yeah.
And it just kind of all leads into this one like deep dark circle that you don't realise that you're in.
Yeah.
But at the time you think you're having the time of your life.
Yeah. So did your world completely change, like friendship groups, all that kind of stuff?
Not so much my friendship groups. Like my friends all still remained pretty similar throughout this period.
Yeah.
We all kind of went through it at the same time.
Yeah.
Some of us obviously were affected worse than others, and some had more control. Some didn't like it as much, so it was like in and out. But there was a few of us that would always kind of be doing it on the weekends together. So
yeah.
Still, these people are still great friends of mine today, and we've all pulled ourselves out of it. But I think to the extent, I guess, in which it had a hold on my life, I don't know that it was that bad for some other people.
Yeah.
But not many people sort of know the real extent of it either. So
interesting.
Very interesting.
So, and we'll get into the extent in a second, but that's something that I find interesting as well. Is a lot of people that I speak to about my story or whatever, they have kind of had similar experiences, but didn't end up where I did or where you did.
Yeah.
So, what do you think it is about you that, or if it is about you, or if it's about the drugs that brought you to that kind of ending point where everything was completely fucked, and not others? Do you have any kind of ideas around that?
I think it's just people's personalities react differently with certain. You talk about chemicals because that's what it is, right? But I think a lot of people always say I've got a really addictive personality.
Yeah.
Like, someone can find a new TV show and they'll watch every fucking episode in like a day and end up with like square eyes. Whereas someone else goes, oh no, I just watch it like whenever I can be bothered.
Yeah.
So I think the difference in people's personalities is kind of what takes them down their path.
Yeah. And are you the kind of person that is extreme or like obsessive and kind of compulsive, I guess you could say? Yeah,
absolutely. Like 0 to 100 in everything, every sort of aspect of my life. It's like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going head first 100% and I'm not going to quit until I've done it or I feel satisfied. And it was the same thing, obviously, with drugs. It's like, once you find something, you just hold on to it because it makes you feel so good.
Yeah.
And, you just keep going back.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay, so, and then how did you go from kind of that stage in your life into the ice use and kind of what happened tell us the extent that people don't know, I guess.
Yeah. So it all started, we were at a friend's place, their parents went away and everyone was like, oh, let's just go for a house party.
Yeah.
And we were all there for a house party and we were all just like, we got there like on 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of friends of ours that had done it before and there was a few of us that hadn't and they were like, oh, do you want to try it?
Yeah.
We're like, oh, why not? It's pretty much just like really strong speed. So you go, oh, sure, no issue with that, no worries. So anyway, ended up trying it and I'll never forget a friend of mine, I won't name names, but a friend of mine said to me just before I was about to try it for the first time, he goes, be careful because it'll get you.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like, what the fuck does he mean by that? Oh, whatever. So I kind of just shook it off and now I realise like bang, like it's the first time I have it, like fuck, that's it. It's got you by the balls. And it's not letting go on it. But like traps your soul and it turns you into this completely different person. But from there, like had it on that night, had a really great time, obviously as you do. Didn't sleep and then, went home the next day and kind of just fell in a heap in my bed, went to sleep, and then I don't think I did it again for maybe, I don't know, like two or 3 weeks or something. I was kind of, I think at the time we had like finals for football, so I was like, I'm going to play footy and not go out. But then after that, it was like, you know, we all got together again, and it was like, oh, that was a really good night. Maybe we'll do it again. And then it just became a regular thing, you know. Every weekend it was like, okay, when are we going to get it? You know, Saturday afternoon or something. We go and get it Saturday, use it Saturday night. And then it turned into this, oh, it was pretty fun on Saturday, why don't we do it on Friday instead? And then we do it on Friday night. And then it's like, you get to Saturday afternoon, you still haven't slept. It's like, well, it's Saturday night, let's go get more. Yeah. You end up just like prolonging this period that you're off your face, and you don't realise, you know, you lose all track of time and reality. And it just becomes this like dream world that you live in.
That's a thing, actually. I haven't talked about that much, but when you are on ice, you do lose track of time. Like, it's amazing. You think that it's only been a day. Yeah. And then you'll ask someone, and they're like, no, it's like Thursday. Yeah. And you're like, what?
What? Yeah. The fuck? It was Monday yesterday. Like, what's going on? Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And we actually went through, it kind of got really, really bad at one stage where we had two groups of friends that moved out at the same time. Yeah. And their houses were like 200 metres apart from each other, like just in East Burnley. So we would go to like one guy's house or one group's house on, you know, a Friday night, start there. Once they kicked everyone out, we go to the other house or vice versa. And then it ended up becoming one of these things where it's like, you go to your friend's house on a Wednesday night just to hang out, and you'd end up starting on Wednesday night. And then Thursday night comes, Friday night comes, before you know it, it's Monday. Yeah. And you kind of look at yourself, you go, I've lost like 6 kilos, I look like a rake. I should probably go home. Yeah. And you go home, go to bed, or try and sleep if you can, which I was on medication at the time from a previous episode. I actually got psychosis, drug-induced psychosis from took some pills at a festival, and they were laced with acid, I think, and just did not agree with my brain. So, ended up having drug-induced psychosis. So I was on like antidepressants and antipsychotics. And the antipsychotics, the Seroquel, you take it and fucking bang, you just knocked out for 8 hours. Yeah. So no matter what you'd done previously in that day and whatever, you'd sleep. Yeah. So I was like, this is great. Go out, do whatever I want, go home, take a pill, go to sleep, wake up. I was a zombie. I had no emotions, but I got sleep if I needed. Yeah. It's interesting. Okay, so there's a couple of things that I want to touch on there. Yeah. The first one is, and we're going to get into it, what he's doing now, but Sam's always kind of been, well, from what I know, sport and stuff like that and fitness. So you mentioned that you kind of had that period of time after you first used it where you didn't, because of sport and stuff. Yeah. The kinds of people that you're using with, were they playing sport as well? Like, and what is it like from your experience in like sporting clubs and stuff? Is it around, or is it a thing, or? Yeah, it's definitely a thing in sporting clubs, and people are naive to think that it's not. Right. It's more common, I think, than people will admit in not just sporting clubs, but like, you know, any sort of friendship or social group. I don't want to say all because I don't know everyone, but I think, from my personal experiences, it's everywhere, and it's not just like the younger people that are doing it either. You know, you've got like older guys around sporting clubs and stuff that get involved with it as well, and it's kind of like, Jesus, like you've got a family at home, and this is what you're doing. Like, you're kind of taken aback a little bit at the time, but definitely think it's very common. And the guys that I was sort of hanging out with at the time, there was maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of them that would play football as well, but the rest would kind of just go to the gym. Yeah, yeah. To stay fit-ish, or to look fit at least. So you mentioned about like the older crew that of people that are somewhat kind of normal, I guess, on paper that are doing it. Like, how does that, from someone that's using it with a personal experience, it's something I've struggled to explain to other people. How does that happen in those people? Like, why do you think that? Because it's easy to say or think of like a young person getting into drugs and doing them, like what you're describing. But then how does someone that's like 40 with a family at home just kind of get into using ice? Like, I guess like you kind of relate it to like they weren't born yesterday sort of thing. So I know, with some older people that I know, they grew up through the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was cocaine fucking everywhere. So it's not like the drug or the term drug is a new thing for them. It's just the drug itself might be different.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know, it might just be the kind of thing like, well, everyone's doing it. It's kind of what's around at the time, so we'll just give it a try.
Yeah.
I think, but I don't think I ever knew anyone that was older that sort of had like family and, you know, like wife and kids or something, or even a husband and kids that got really bad on it. In that stage. It sort of seemed like they had this other thing that would stop them with being their family.
Okay, so with all this like usage, so how did you kind of use the drugs, or like ice in particular? Were you smoking it? Or,
Always just smoked it. Like I never you know, used it through a needle or snorted it, because it would make it, you know, from friends telling me it makes it feel like you're burning a hole in your face. So we just smoke it. But I think from personal experiences, half of the addiction is doing it, because it's almost enjoyable. It's like seeing how much smoke you can get and all this sort of stuff. It's kind of a whole package deal. Like it even starts from when you organise with your friends, let's go pick it up, and get, you know, a little flutter in your heart, like, oh, we're going to get it, and it's all exciting, and you know, we could get caught, but you know, we'll do our best to stay away, and it's kind of all a package deal, I guess, when you look at it.
So obviously there's so much that happens throughout the time that you're using drugs and your addiction and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the start and the middle, I guess. Like, what was the ending? Like, talk us through the lowest point in your life with the drugs and stuff like that.
So the lowest point was, this is about a year and a bit after my parents separated. Mum was living, Mum was here at this place actually, and I was with Dad in another place in East Bentley. And Dad had just gotten a new partner, so he was never home. So I pretty much had the house to myself.
Right.
Fuck, how was this? Bad news. So it was like, I only had people over every now and then, because I was kind of like, they didn't want to bring it around the house just in case Dad found out. But at the time, I was living by myself.
You were hiding it from everyone, from family and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the only people that knew, obviously, were my mates. But
and how hard was that?
It was like, I thought that I was really good at it,
right,
at hiding all of it. Like they never found, I guess, any bags or pipes or anything like that. But I think, they knew from my behaviour that I was doing it. I don't think they knew what I was doing or how often I was doing it, but they obviously knew something was going on. But it was a pretty low point. Like I didn't have a job, so I was just getting money from Centrelink, so I was on the dole. And I was just selling drugs to make money to buy it myself, and blah, blah, blah. It's just this vicious cycle. And it was getting to a point where it was like, I'd pick it up off my mate on, you know, Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday or something, and I'd go home and I'm like, I just want to try it, see what it's like. And then Wednesday afternoon, you have it then, and then you end up calling people and everyone comes around, or you go to a friend's place and it just goes day in, day out for like 5 days. And then, you know, come Monday night, you go home and it's like, fuck, like, I'm feeling a bit paranoid.
And
I'll never forget, it happened, you know, a few weeks in a row where I'd sit on the couch. I was home alone. I'd sit on the couch at my place where Dad and I lived with the TV on, but no noise, so it was muted. So I'd just be sitting there like this, watching the TV in complete silence. And the reason I did that was so I could hear, just in case someone was going to come into the house. It's fucked. It was terrible. Like I'd even go as far as, you know, having a baseball bat next to me on the couch, just in case. You always have this feeling that like something bad's going to happen. Like, you get this serious anxiety. And I remember so many times, like I had a park, our house backed onto a park, so there was like always people walking around and walking their dogs and stuff. And you hear a dog bark and you just be like, fuck, that's in my backyard. And you like shit yourself, even though it's a dog and I'm not scared of dogs. Like, it's coming to get me.
So you were just constantly on high alert, like 100%. Adrenaline was pumping all the time.
It was always like your heart rate's at like 190 beats per minute, just sitting there like ready for something. Wow. It's like you're ready for the end of the world. Almost. It was bizarre. It was pretty fucked up, if I do say so.
So and what brought you to the point of kind of getting help for yourself or reaching out for help? I'm not actually too sure on how you actually did it all. It would be interesting to hear that. But was it just constant, events happening like that? Were you just feeling like that all the time? You mentioned before, like the kind of up and down and passing out and having no emotions and psychosis and all. Was it all that, or was it something else? Or?
No, it was something else. I had I was at a friend's place, and I'll never forget the day. Like, I was at a friend's place on a Saturday afternoon, and we'd been up for a couple of days already.
Yeah.
And there was someone there that didn't like me, and I didn't like them either. But this person was particularly nasty. So, and he was standing at the front. He was on his phone, and he was like looking at me around this, hiding and like looking at me like this. And I was like, "Fuck, this guy's organising to like cave my head in or something." And I was sitting down, and I was like a bit paranoid, and I was like, "No, fuck this, I've got to go." So I left, and I came here to sit sit at home because I was really uncomfortable. And I'll never forget the feeling. I was so concerned for my family that they were going to come here.
Yeah.
And I was shitting myself. Like, I'd never felt so scared in my life.
Yeah.
I went out into my room and just sat on my bed, clutching a bat, waiting for something really, really bad to happen just so I could run out if I needed to. And it was that moment that I kind of like, once I got over it all, everyone went to bed, everything was okay, woke up the next day alive. I was like, okay, this has to stop because that's fucked. Like, I was literally waiting for someone to come in and like stab my mum or something. And it's like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I'm young, I'm 23, 24 years old. It's not normal. So that was the moment where I was like, this has to stop.
So it was like a realization or a rock bottom. Sorry, that's my phone.
Yeah.
So do you think it's something that's kind of debated a lot? Like, do you think for you, did it have to be a rock bottom moment like that or a realization to kind of jolt you out of what you were doing? Or could it could it have been something else? Or did you have other times where you thought, I've got to cut this shit out? Or
there was other times. Like, I mean, as a group, it was almost like a regular thing. Like, once a month, we'd sit down and we'd be like, all right, no more. Like, let's smash all the pipes, just throw all the lighters away, and delete everyone's number out of your phone and all this sort of stuff. And you'd have these kind of like epiphanies, and then the next week the same thing would happen.
Yeah.
So I think it needed to be one of those rock bottom moments where it's like, okay, if I don't do something about this, I'm going to die. Someone's going to get hurt. You have to feel like you've lost everything before you can really realise how bad it is.
Yeah.
For some people, unfortunately, it doesn't happen as soon as it does. It did for me. They might end up in jail or unwillingly put into a rehab centre or something.
Yeah.
But fortunate enough for me, it kind of, I realised within myself on that day, the cat's got to stop.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's interesting what you mentioned about like kind of sitting around with your friends and stuff. Something that I did and everyone that I talk to, but I think it's really good just for people watching to hear it from a lot of different people, is that I often find, and tell me if you agree or disagree, but like people that are using drugs, like kind of heavily, don't actually usually want to be in the situation that they're in, or they want to stop. It's just they don't really kind of know how to ask for help, or like they don't understand what's happening to them, and they kind of ask for it and then get up the next day and everything's not so bad anymore and they keep going. Was that the same for you? Like, you kind of, for a while, you didn't want to be doing what you were doing?
Absolutely. It was one of those things where it's like, what you're doing is bad, but it's almost as if you don't know how to stop.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get caught in this, like, your brain's almost in this dance between like good and evil.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there thinking, I need to stop. And then it's like, oh, but it's so much easier just to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And then you're having an argument with yourself for like, hours sometimes. You're sitting there like just staring at the floor. And then you just end up going, listening to the devil on your shoulder and going, oh, fuck it, I'll just do it because it's going to make me feel good.
Yeah.
And then I'll deal with it later.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's very tough.
So, and like the kind of that time when you did like reach out for help, how did you start getting help for yourself, or what was the process?
It's an interesting one. I kind of just, once I had that feeling that like my family was in danger and it was my fault, like I know within myself I've always been someone who's very protective of the ones I love. So that for me was like the scariest moment of my life, thinking that I'd created all of this danger for my family. So that was kind of enough for me to sort of step away and be like, fuck this, I don't want to do that ever again. I did have help from one of my best mates as well, Harley, who you know. he'd have a chat with me on a particular day, and he's like, you got to stop doing this. Like, you're not the person I used to know, and all this stuff. I haven't seen you for like a year.
Yeah.
And we used to be best mates, and hearing that from him, it was kind of like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, this is my best mate, and I love him to pieces. Like, we're still best mates to this day, but hearing that from him, it was kind of like, oof. Yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
He's right. So I think the best thing for me was sort of explaining to him to the extent that I was involved in it.
Yeah.
So having someone else that understood, and he said, whenever you feel like you want to use it, call me and we'll go hang out. We'll go grab a beer or something and just keep you away from it.
Yeah.
So having that one person that wasn't involved in it that could help me if I needed help out.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's really interesting. So kind of like talking about that now with me, and then like mentioning you, mate, and like, how does it make you feel to think back and think that was my life?
It's crazy. Like, when I look at what I'm doing now compared to what I used to do, like, I always look back at myself and I've got this image in my head of, I weighed 70 kilos, I'd blow away in the wind.
70 kilos.
Yeah, wow. I was light.
So what do you weigh now? I know you're like, we're going to talk about it in a second. Sam's crazy fit.
That's right.
But like, what do you weigh now?
So I'm 88 kilos now.
Wow.
Yeah, so 18 kilos.
And that's just like pure muscle, I would say too.
Yeah, not much body fat, which is good. I mean, I can't afford to be too bulky for my particular sport, but so like I've got this image of myself in my head where I weighed fuck all, and I had no job. I was a dog bludger. I was selling drugs. I was taking drugs every weekend. I was a menace, like a pest to society.
Yeah.
Obviously, I thought I was living life and I had friends, but I look back at myself now and I go, what the fuck were you doing? Like, you idiot. You had this, 5 years of your life, which is gone.
Yeah.
You can't ever get back. I do look back at it now, though, and I go, I still wouldn't change it because it's made me who I am today.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Especially as well with what I'm doing with fitness, like CrossFit being my chosen sport.
Yeah.
I'm also a coach and a personal trainer, so I think with what I've been through in my life with all the issues with drugs and then other issues and stuff, it's made it really easy for me to relate to people.
Yeah.
And using it now as a massive positive rather than looking back and say, oh, my life's gone. I'm just always going to be what I was.
Yeah. Okay, so like, and it kind of sounds like the CrossFit stuff is where it started, but or maybe where it's ended up. But you leaned on, it sounds like, your friendship groups and stuff to kind of help you, which is something that I've found for people is like the most important thing, having kind of people that aren't in that circle that are using and stuff. It's trying to like it's like trying to get off alcohol in Dan Murphy's. It's going to be pretty hard. So you can have other people around that aren't doing that and doing different stuff. It's good. But then did you find that you, like, often people tell me that they sort of like replaced that sort of like addiction with something else? Is that what you did with fitness and CrossFit and what you're doing
100%. Yeah. And I think it's kind of dictated by the person's personality, or I even see it as like the type of drug that a person was using should almost dictate what they should replace it with.
That's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah. So like for me, obviously taking ice, it's like the most intense feeling ever. You're on top of the world and you're rushing, your blood's pumping through your body. If I was to try and replace it with yoga, I'd probably get pretty bored and end up relapsing and just going straight back to what I used to do. But replacing it with something like CrossFit, which is, I'm 100% entrenched in it and, full on all the time, it kind of replaces the feeling that was lost from ice, but in a better way. Yeah. Because it lasts for longer and it's more natural and you don't come down, you don't feel like shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So would you say that there's been like to your sort of recovery process, I guess, and how long has it been now, by the way?
Let me think. Probably 4.5 years, maybe 5 years.
So a long time, a good amount of time. Yeah. And were you someone that had kind of slip ups along the way, or like, okay.
Yeah, for sure. Like I was definitely no angel. Like when I did, I guess, use drugs again, it wasn't ice though, so I haven't touched it since then. Yeah. But it might have been speed or cocaine or something. Yeah. But never. It was always like, it's an occasion, I'll just do it then. Or whatever. So, there's definitely slip-ups along the way, and it's not like, you relate it to people that quit smoking. They're smoking 20 years and they try and quit, and it's almost like every time you try, you get a little bit better at it.
Yeah.
So you just continue to work away at it, and then it ends up becoming normal.
Yeah.
Not using it at the time.
Just on that, like, so was it when you'd have those slip-ups, how would you kind of be thinking towards yourself? Would you like beat yourself up, or you're like positive about it, or
it was it's a bit weird. Like sometimes it's not an issue because I sort of felt like, oh, I've got control over it. So I'd wake up the next day and I'd be like, oh, last night was a fucking great night.
Yeah.
And I guess realistically, that's you almost look at it as if that's what it's meant for, like alcohol. Like you drink it and then you put it away.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about it anymore. Sometimes I'd wake up and I'd feel alright about myself, but sometimes I'd wake up and I'd just be like, fuck, like what'd you do that for?
Yeah.
And just, you look at your bank account, you got no money and you're feeling like shit, and then you go in and train at the gym on a Monday and you're just pathetic.
Yeah. Okay. So because it's interesting, and I think it's the reason why I ask is that something that we're trying to do is kind of reframe the thinking around like what recovery is and how people kind of measure themselves, because like what you said, like someone that smokes for 20 years, like being addicted to like ice, it's an intense thing,
absolutely.
To just stop it and never do it again forever is like a really, really, really hard thing. If you can get a bit better at it each time,
absolutely,
and change other things in your life that help prop you up, that's a good thing. So it's interesting to hear that. So anyway, going back, you replace it with CrossFit. So like, what's that like? Tell us what CrossFit is like.
It's fucking awesome. It's been the best thing that I've ever done in my life. I went down to, I guess, get a little bit fitter in the off season for football. And after maybe a month, I was like, I'm actually a lot better at this than I am at footy. And it gives me a better feeling because it was like full on for such a short period of time, and I was like, bang, going. It's almost like you go and you get your high and then you leave and you're on top of the world and you can't wait for next time. It's a new addiction, but now I'm more involved in it and aspiring to become I guess a really high level athlete and go compete over in America.
Wow.
My regime is awesome at the moment. I'm a coach at two different gyms. It's CrossFit South Wharf and GW Performance, which is in South Yarra. That's a new one. My life is amazing. Like I get up in the morning and I go to the gym and I train for an hour and a half, and then I'll stop. I have something to eat, do some sort of mobility, and then I'll coach some classes and take some PT clients, and then I'll train again for another hour and a half, and then eat again, and then coach again, and then come home, do all my mobility, and then like prepare my food for the next day, and then go to bed. And it's just every day is the same pretty much. But it's amazing, like being a coach and a personal trainer. I'm sort of in a position where people kind of look to me for guidance. But I'm also in a position where I'm learning off them. Which is really cool. But seeing them, when you're helping a client who just wants to get their first pull-up and they've been working on it for 6 months, and then they finally get it, it's like they get tears in their eyes and I get all choked up. I feel like a proud parent whose kids just graduated from college or something. It's the best. It's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. It's fantastic.
Wow. So, and I know that CrossFit's like pretty intense. So,
it's full.
because I find it's a great thing, but I just find it interesting how you've gone from one thing that's, I guess, like on the negative side of like drug addiction, which is intense and full on, to something that's positive, that's intense and full on. So talk us through like the regime of it, I guess, like day to day.
Yeah, so I mean, CrossFit's great for me personally. Like I love it because everything is different. Like you'll be lifting as heavy as as much weight as you can, and then 10 seconds later you'll be upside down walking on your hands, doing gymnastics, handstand push-ups and all this sort of stuff, and anything you can kind of dream up, I guess, in a gym, you kind of do in CrossFit. So it covers all of these bases, which keeps it really interesting. But I mean, by no means is it like the be-all and end-all of health and fitness. Sure. Different people work with different things, and all credit to like people that do bodybuilding. Like that's hard enough, and all this sort of stuff. But it's just like for that. I guess you call them the average punter. They come into the gym. their session goes for an hour. So they'll come into the gym, they'll do a warm up in the session, and then usually like a strength component.
Yeah.
After that, they'll do some sort of metabolic conditioning, and then after that, if there's time within the class or outside the class, they'll do their own cool down.
Yeah.
Go home, eat well, go to sleep, and then you're doing better than 60% of the population. So it's a pretty cool thing.
And how many times do you train a day?
Twice a day. Sometimes 3 times. Depends on how much energy I've got.
And then, wow.
Yeah.
So, and then how many sessions is in, how many hours is in like a session?
So I'll do usually 2 1.5 hour sessions of training a day, and ours will be broken up into like strength and skill or strength and conditioning or conditioning and skill. We're on a pretty, structured program now leading into we've got a big competition starting next year. So we're pretty structured in our regime. So probably 2 1.5 sessions a day, and then if I've got time, I might practice or work on some weaknesses that I've got, and always just continue to try and do something. But being at the gym all day, every day, it's like you eat and then you sit down, you're like, I want to do something. You just go down, you end up training for an hour.
So something that I'm interested in, I've noticed it with like CrossFit people. I've met a fair few of them now. It kind of seems like there's all the physical health aspect and stuff that's really good. But because everyone's like kind of there all the time that take it seriously, or just even the average punter, as you call them, there seems to be like there's something more that they're like getting out of it. And there's like at the gym, there's this real like it's not just like a 24-hour gym where you go in with your headphones in and don't speak to anyone. There seems to be a real like community happening there. Has that been something that's been pretty important?
Oh, absolutely. It's what realistically, it's what CrossFit as a whole will pride themselves on, is their sense of community. So it's one of the most amazing things. Like you can walk into any CrossFit gym anywhere around the world, and people are just like, come in, we're open up with open arms, and it's just this amazing thing where it's like you're all working towards a common goal together, and halfway through a workout when you really want to quit and you feel like your world's caving in, you're exhausted, you look next to you and you know that person's going through the same thing, and then the person next to them's going through the same thing. So it creates this unbelievable sort of morale that you would get with like a football team. And I guess the difference between like CrossFit gym and a football team is you've got 60, 65-year-old women training next to 22-year-old men, and it's just this unbelievable dynamic that seems to work because everyone's there for the same reason. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it.
That's interesting. So like I guess what I'm getting at is that like if you were to meet someone now that was kind of in a similar situation to you were like 4.5, 5 years ago, was kind of at a bit of a bottom, what would be, based off your experience in kind of what's helped you to progress to where you are now, what would be like your kind of prescription method on how they should go about turning their life around?
For me, I think, the way that I did it worked really well, and it worked for me, but I know that obviously everyone's different. So, I might just say to them, like, try and find someone that's detached from your situation. And maybe, like, create a new friend or create a new group of friends that, obviously, you would want to be around people that aren't going to judge you, oh, this guy's just a drug addict or whatever. So, maybe just, like, find a new group of friends, and I think really, like, take some time to yourself and sit down and think about maybe the reasons why you're doing what you're doing. Why do you want to take drugs on the weekend? Is it because you enjoy it, or is it because you want to escape reality of a 9-to-5 job? And all.
So what was it for you?
Mine was that I just didn't have anything else. Like I thought, this is my life. This is what I enjoy. This is what I want to do.
So there was no kind of higher purpose that you had at that time.
No,
to connect to.
Yeah, exactly. Like I didn't have a job. I didn't have any sort of sense of purpose, or I wasn't putting into society. I wasn't doing anything for anyone else, so I didn't feel like I had any sort of responsibility to be anyone. So I could just be whoever the fuck I wanted, really. So I think finding something that you can do to be proud of, that you want to look back on one day and say, that's me and I'm proud of doing what I did. So for me, it would be now I'm a coach and I'm helping people achieve their goals.
Yeah.
So now I've got a responsibility to these people to always turn up on time and not be hungover or, you know, coming down and all this stuff. So I think, yeah, for someone who's sort of struggling or maybe wanting to get out of the same or similar situation is find something that makes you feel as good as the drugs make you feel without having to use them.
Yeah.
It's hard to do and it will take some time, definitely. I mean, I'm not suggesting that everyone goes to try CrossFit because it's not for everyone, but, you know, maybe even if it's for some people, it's like, you know, just doing like yoga or just moving, going for walks, meeting up with friends, take up a new hobby like painting or something. You know, you never know what kind of hidden talent you might have.
Well, it sounds like the more I kind of like listen to your like story and the times in which, you're really like succeeding is that when whether it's, of course, it's great to be more healthy and all that kind of stuff, but it sounds like, you're A, kind of connecting to something bigger that you want to do.
Yeah.
And B, you're sort of finding a group of people that's at the same level and interest or above in what you want to do and hanging out with them more than, you know, the Daros or whatever.
Yeah, correct. But yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I've sort of realised, especially recently, is the more that you do for other people, in turn, the more you end up doing for yourself.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You know, if you like when I was, you know, addicted to drugs, all I was doing was just taking drugs and taking drugs, and I wouldn't give anything back to people. But you find this unbelievable like sense of satisfaction doing something to help someone else achieve something that they wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
And then you kind of feel like, oh, I did that for them.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do that for myself too.
Yeah.
And you end up setting yourself some little goals, and every day you like, or every week, month, year, whatever it is, you're ticking one off, and you get this sense of purpose. Like I'm working towards something now, but I'm also working towards it with so many other people, so you're not alone.
It's interesting. So how did you find out about that little kind of secret, if you like?
Yeah, my golden egg. I think it was when I started seeing my clients progress within themselves. Like, you know, they come into the gym and they're a little bit scared and they're maybe not so strong and not so fit, and then after a couple of months of training, you see them walking around, you know, with a really proud chest and their head held high, and you know, then they turn around to you and they say, "Thank you so much, like you've changed my life." It's like, fuck, I did that. Wow, like that's the moment where you're like, okay, this is real. Like these are real people, and I'm a real person, and you find that you can still connect with people you can connect with anyone on a sort of an emotional level, and it kind of makes you realize this is realistically what we're meant to be doing, is helping people. Yeah, which I guess is what effectively it's kind of what you're doing with this whole thing. You know, you're helping more people than you can sit down and talk with. But I think that was the time.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good little note to finish on, because I think that is a good little hack.
Yeah.
No, but thanks for coming and sharing your story.
Yeah,
it's
no
actually, actually, I might just quickly touch on, because it's something that I'm interested in. I've struggled with it a little bit over my kind of journey. Yeah. And reasonably comfortable with it now.
Yeah.
But how do you, like,